Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Thanks for joining the Hired, Workable, and Axios panel on why your employees won't stay forever and how to plan for it. I'm excited to talk with these two amazing panelists, but we want this to be interactive, so please ask questions in chat window that we can answer at the end of the panel. Let's begin with quick introductions. My name is Debbie Alperstein, and I am the VP of Product for Hired, and I'll be moderating today's panel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Claire Kennedy, and I'm the Senior Director of People Operations at Axios.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess Moschino, and I'm the Vice President of Customer Success at Workable.
Great, thanks so much, Jess and Claire. Here's what we're going to cover today. I'd like to begin by finding out what you, our audience, finds to be your biggest challenges related to recruiting and retention. Next, we'll discuss why it's important to plan for turnover, and then we'll follow that up by recruiting tactics to combat churn, how internal mobility can be used for retention, and finally, how to create a forward-looking hiring plan that will keep your organization prepared for inevitable obstacles of churn. Before we dive into today's panel discussion, I would love to hear from our audience which of these people ops challenges resonates the most. You can use the poll box to select your answer. Okay, well, these are very interesting results. It looks like the majority, not the majority, but 46% say that finding the right qualified candidates is their top concern, followed by decreasing the volume of turnover. Very, very interesting. Thank you for participating with us in that. So with the historically low unemployment and an average turnover rate of more than 10%, recruiting is now an always-on function that can no longer revolve solely around company growth. If we look at the next slide, we can see turnover rates by industry. I just waited to see that next slide, just checking if I'm still seeing the pull up. Excellent. Thanks so much. Media and technology companies make up two sectors where turnover is highest, which gives this particular panel a very interesting perspective into this problem. Question first for Claire. What's your take on this, and how are you addressing these trends at Axios?
Yeah, this is a very accurate description of media and technology. And media has always been a really volatile industry. I think that's never been more true than now. Our landscape is changing at an astounding rate. Media companies are having to figure out how to build new and innovative revenue streams to stay afloat, and that experimentation is having major implications for our workforce. So absent an enduring business model, traditional media is really struggling to survive, and that is creating an unusually competitive environment. So I would definitely say that this is apt for media. But we're also designed more like a tech company, and we're going to be experimenting with non-traditional tech products in the future. And in the tech space, there is plenty of opportunity for talented engineers, particularly in the competitive markets we're located in, to bounce from job to job if they're not finding what they're looking for in their current job setup. So we try to be really mindful of all of those factors while we're designing Axios.
Great. What share can you hear best from your experience in software companies, both large and small?
You got it. So I would agree with everything that Claire's mentioned so far. I'd also mention as well, in my experience in customer-facing roles, we tend to see a lot of high turnover as well, right? So if we compound those two areas, obviously transition turnover is going to be a constant concern. right? So for us, really, what I found to be most helpful is in, again, managing toward that challenge that you're going to face. So career development sessions with your employees, thinking through, again, not just the day-to-day role that your employees are currently in, but ways that you can actually provide more creative solutions. And for us, really, again, risk analysis, succession planning, and thinking about that change that you know you're going to be facing.
Great. Well said, both of you. So it appears that there's no real secret sauce to combat these, right? But getting ahead of your problems before they arise and completely understanding how your people ops strategy relates to your business strategy is key to getting the resources you need to help your executive teams and managers. So our organizations need to throw out the motion case with RECs on an ad hoc basis and instead go with steadier programs that offer access to a consistent pipeline of highly qualified talent. Claire, how do you approach building and maintaining your candidate pipeline?
Yeah, my team really tries to apply the same tactics that a sales operation would to building a business opportunity pipeline as you would towards building a candidate pipeline. And what that basically amounts to is building a really robust database. So we try to prioritize with every individual we talk to at every stage of the interview process, taking really, really detailed notes and saving that information in a way that's going to be useful for you in the future. So we've been able to go back quite a few times and actually reapproach candidates that wanted to work at Axios, but for one reason or another in the past it didn't work out, and go back to them with a different opportunity. And so I would challenge everyone to consider, if you're not capturing that level of intelligence and storing and saving it in a really useful way, you're actually wasting a lot of time in the interview process.
Yeah, and thanks. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to add to that. I think, Claire, exactly what you were mentioning. Here at Workable, we actually use our own software to track our candidate pool, to take a look at past interviewees, and we're starring the folks that we know are terrific candidates, whether it's for this position in the future or a future position, and that's been incredibly helpful for us. In the last couple of months, I've actually had a position that was very difficult to fill. Had a number of candidates come across my desk, and in the end, where I ended up hiring from was our existing talent pool, where I'd networked with some other managers within Workable to say, hey, have you come across folks that meet these criteria? And again, to your point, having those detailed notes accessible, being able to pull back, we've been able to make a terrific hire. So absolutely agree with what you've mentioned.
That's great, and I can relate to all of that as well, and especially just that idea of being able to create your own platform. We're obviously in the same boat for the hiring, so that definitely helps. Moving on, after you what can you do to more effectively move through the process?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So I really think that getting that first interaction with the candidate right is critical to setting up the rest of your process for success. And that really starts with recruiters. You need to have really strong recruiters who are not only able to discern all of the information you need to determine whether the candidate should be moved forward or not, but you also then need to make sure you understand a candidate's motivations such that you can actually sell them the opportunity. So again, understanding a candidate's motivations are really critical to getting that first interaction right and setting that up for success. But then from there, you want to make sure that you have a really well-oiled interview process all the way around, so that when you find really great candidates, you can move them through the process quickly and really act on default as much as possible.
Perfect. And I'd add to that as well. So another approach that we're taking here, as I'm meeting with candidates, I'm trying to think about what their life cycle at Workable will look like, right? So taking them beyond the position that they're actually interested in today, as I get to better know them, I'm thinking about where would they fit next, right? So as we're making this investment in a candidate, I want to make sure that they're also investing in us, and we're going to have the potential to see really everything that candidate has to offer and bring back into the larger organization. The big piece of that is when they make those moves, they're championing for us everything to do with customer success and account management. So I found that to be terrifically helpful as well.
That's great. That's great. Let's move on then to the transition to our next topic. Once you look for the top performing employees, you need habits to ensure that they stay. Let's talk a lot about internal mobility. When we take a look at this survey that we did at Hired, it's interesting to me to find that finding new challenges is the second largest reason top talent is leaving their jobs. Claire, how can you use this information to inform people's decisions around employee engagement?
Yeah, it's true that people need to stay challenged to remain in a job. Individuals, managers, really, and HR all bear some of the responsibility for making sure your top performers and really all of your people remain challenged and that teams remain properly optimized. So for individuals, particularly at an early stage startup that doesn't benefit from having as much of the like mature kind of process and infrastructure as other organizations, better established organizations, we really look for our individuals to help us understand what skills they want to develop, how they want to grow their careers. And particularly, again, at a startup, you're looking for people that are very proactive and very entrepreneurial. And we try to encourage our people to approach building their career with the same kind of mindset as we would ask that they approach their work here. So we do put quite a bit of onus on individuals to let us know what they want to do, let us know how they want to grow. But then the onus then is on managers too, to make sure you understand your people, you understand, to the previous slide, our point, what motivates your people and what they want long term. That's definitely a responsibility of managers. And then lastly, for HR, I mean, it really behooves us to have as much line of sight into all things people as possible, particularly for an organization that's growing quickly, because we've got almost the best vantage point across the organization that other executives might not have. So when we start batting around an idea for a new product or a new revenue stream, a new content area idea, it's very helpful for us to be able to jump in and say, hey, have you thought about this person over here? They're doing great work, and I know they're interested in that. So there's a bit of shared responsibility, but making sure your top performers, and again, really all of your people feel challenged is far and away the most important part of keeping them.
Great. And Jess, as a hiring manager, how can you use
You've got it. It's interesting, actually. So I joined Workable not that long ago, and in coming onto the team, I'm actually responsible for thinking about taking our existing customer success team and being more reactive to providing more proactive engagements, right? Value-driven support for our customers. And in thinking about that, when you make a big shift like that, it's really about making sure that the folks that are involved in that change have a piece of ownership in that change. So something that's been successful for me so far has been to actually align pilots and programs based on my one-on-one discussions with my employees. To Claire's point, right? Understanding what drives your employees, what gets them excited, where they want to be challenged next. So that as I think about those programs, I can give them direct accountability, and they're actually helping us grow our programs so that we're becoming, much more proactive. Another piece of that is we've actually just merged our customer success and account management teams, right? So talk about more change in a short amount of time. And, my goal is to ensure, of course, we're preventing churn, that I'm helping folks grow and develop and getting them to that next step. The best way I found to do that, again, is to maintain those projects, make sure that they're involved in, thinking about how we're going to grow and, expand our offerings to our customers, what that looks like, and by them having a seat at the table, they're more creative, right? They own a stake in what we're doing, and so far the engagement levels have been terrific. So for us, that's really worked very well. And I think, again, it makes things less scary, and it's about making sure that, they're having the opportunity to stretch and grow and being given new opportunities within the role they're in today.
Right. These are excellent insights. Thank you both. So, understanding that top employees are consistently looking for new challenges, companies must embrace internal mobility as a way to keep employees engaged and help on. Jess, as a leader of a function that typically has higher than average turnover, how would you leverage internal mobility?
You've got it. So a couple different ways, right? So for us, we've actually built in an internal career pathing. what we're doing is talking to other areas within the organization, like support, right? So where we know that, folks tend to get antsy to make a move, let's say, 9 to 12 months or so, providing them the opportunity to take that operational expertise and then move into an area of the business that maybe provides a little bit more commercial experience, and then they're able to move over to our account management team, our CS team. And that's been terrific for us because, again, we've got folks that have that developed expertise, they understand our customer base, where we're going, and at the same time, they're growing and developing and being constantly challenged. So that's worked really well for us. I think the other piece, too, is we rely heavily on our referrals. So we have a referral program at Workable. We also offer referral software. And so for us to be able to tap into that network and pull in candidates that, again, we've got a good feel for who they are, and again, be able to better grow and develop internally has been terrific. So.
Great, great. From my experience, I've been a hiring manager for a long time. I find that clear and transparent job letters really help managers and employees understand what it's going to take to get promoted. And, you look at the data here at Hire and internally, right, versus some of the surveys that we do. And we found in 2017, 50% of our internal mobility were lateral moves. And in 2018, so far, 81% of our internal mobility has been promotions. And, our retention in 2018 is up significantly. So it's very interesting to look at the data and make important decisions based on what you're seeing at your individual company. Claire, what can you add along those lines?
Yeah, yes to data-informed decisions for sure. And big thumbs up too around the idea of job ladders and career pathing and providing really clear kind of outlines for people so that they know what they need to do to move from one stage to the other. To be totally honest, Axios is still shy of 2 years old, so we're still a really, really young company. We've hired about 150 people in that time. They're just super young, super high growth. Those career ladders are still very aspirational for us, but definitely a goal, and we will definitely get there. But in the meantime, I think something we were able to do right out of the gate is to kind of build a philosophy and a system around internal mobility, particularly lateral mobility, but really mobility of all kinds. And that essentially allows for our people to apply for any of the new positions that we open up. There's some restrictions about that. And while that sounds like a fairly obvious thing to do, it's something that our employees almost immediately started asking for. And what we found by making that process really fair and really transparent and really ingrained in our culture, it was encouraging a lot of people to speak more openly and be more proactive in saying, I'm interested in this opportunity and here's why. And so that's something we do across the board. We allow people to apply for internal positions if, again, they kind of meet those restrictions, and we've seen that go a long way in terms of engaging people and in preventing them from being too scared of the growth we're seeing.
Great, thanks. So now that we've talked about recruiting and retention tactics to combat churn, let's discuss how to create a forward-looking hiring plan that keeps you ahead of the curve. It's difficult to create a hiring plan, as we can see from the response to questions from our customers. For me, as a VP of product, I believe hiring managers must work with their people ops teams to ensure the hiring plan is really tailored to your product roadmap and company strategy, and really getting ahead of that. If you're going to be able to deliver on what you've told not only the rest of your company, but your customers, you're going to need the people in place in order to get it done. And if it comes too late, you're going to run a pretty serious risk of missing those key strategic goals. It's a lot easier said than done. So let's talk a little bit about this. Claire, from the people ops perspective, how can you determine future hiring needs from your existing org chart?
Yeah, that's hard. It is almost impossible to determine your future hiring needs based on your current org chart. Your hiring plans are completely at the mercy of your organization's priorities. And for a 1.5-year-old VC-backed tech media company, those are always changing. So the thing that we found the most success with, frankly, is involving people operations, involving the hiring team, particularly myself in these conversations, as early as humanly possible. So again, when we start batting around ideas for new products or new content areas or new internal or external tools, ingraining us in the process earlier than you, I think, traditionally see at organizations has been a huge game changer for us. That's basically all we can do at this stage of the company to get a leg up and to try to see around the corner. And you certainly want to know things are coming before you need the resources and seat to pull it off. So I think for all organizations, I'm obviously a big advocate of moving away from the model of HR being almost an order taker. It's like, okay, we've got this fully baked idea. We know we need these 3 exact people, go make it happen. Ingraining your HR team and your leader of HR super early in those conversations has been incredibly impactful for us from a workforce planning perspective. And again, with making the best use of the talent we have to date. So I'd encourage everyone to treat HR as a strategic business partner at every step of the process, including that kind of strategic roadmap building.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I have to say, here at Hired, I've never seen it done better. So I'm thrilled to be part of a company that really has that collaboration between the business units and our HR teams. And I really see it making a difference for us. And I think it's a tremendous best practice.
Yeah.
Jess, how do you work with your people ops teams to forecast the resources the team's going to need and putting in a hiring plan?
You got it. So I think we'd all wish for more lead time, right? As company priorities change, that's the best gift you can get. Sometimes that's an opportunity you're given, sometimes it isn't. So, again, we work very closely with our people operations teams, with our peer leaders, thinking about our strategic goals as they evolve. And they're always evolving, right? So there's always something popping up you're not thinking about. But for us, it's really about, maintaining that agility, right? So that as those items are identified that you're going to need additional support for different resourcing. For us, we have the ability, again, to pull from our talent pool and think about, potentially a candidate that may have come forward for something different and trying to identify that next opportunity. So it's really, again, about that partnership internally and having this clearer view of what changes are coming as quickly as you can. And then again, thinking about your employees based on the discussions you've already had and thinking about how you might apply them differently.
Great. So before we go into the Q&A, we wanted to take an opportunity to tell our audience a little bit about Hired and the Workforce today's event. Hired is a curated marketplace that helps qualified tech talent actively ready to interview. And we give you tools to help you quickly find and engage with them. Workable is an all-in-one recruiting software that makes it easy to find, track, and evaluate candidates. It'll help you accelerate the hiring process by finding candidates faster and improving candidate. If you think that either product will help the company, please request a demo by clicking on the poll in the next slide. Awesome. Keep going. We're waiting for you. Hold on just a second. We're working through our technical stuff. There it is. It's up now. So we'd love to hear from you if you're interested in both of us, just one of us. And if now's not a good time, that's okay. We hope you're still getting value out of this event. This poll's in progress right now. It'll be up for just a few more seconds. Okay, great. Now we're just getting a few questions that are coming in. All right, for my first question for Claire, Preet's asking us, how do you deal with leadership that doesn't see impact of turnover on morale?
Can you repeat the question? You cut out in that first part.
So how do you deal with leadership at your company that doesn't see the impact of turnover on morale? and what that's going to do to your business and potentially have more turnover, and it just kind of gets cyclical and makes it worse and worse, right? Your ability to deliver. How do you address that with your leadership to avoid turnover?
Right. That's a good question and a timely one, because we are hitting the stage of our organization where we're beginning to see some of that turnover. I would say you really got to make sure that they're aware of what's happening on the ground, even if they're a couple of steps removed. So that's going to be different depending on the leaders, their style, frankly, their level of interest. I feel super lucky here that I have my president and CEO pop in almost every morning and ask me what's going on, what's up, what progress has been made. They're super diligent about it. But they are removed to some extent from what's happening on the front lines. So if I didn't have them coming to me asking me for that information, I would try to work to understand how they would best receive it, and then make sure that they're getting those updates from me so that they're as accurately as possible aware of what's actually happening within their organization. If you don't close that kind of gap, it's going to be really hard to get their buy-in to take any sort of action to make that meaningful change. So again, that's going to be different from every leader. Hopefully the leaders in question are not totally unaware or don't care about what's happening, but closing that information gap, I think, is huge.
And for Jess, for you, you're on the front lines there with your team that's actively actually working with your customers as well, and I would expect that morale to have a big impact. Have you ever had to deal with that issue, and maybe not at your current company, but how would you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the situations I'm actually not having to deal with it too much right now, given length of time and our leadership. But I think again, open, transparent communication and networking has just been outstanding here. So I think it's just about keeping the dialogue going.
Okay, great. We have another question. This one is for you, Claire, but it's for you, Brennan. Sydney asked, can you give examples of restrictions on applicants for lateral mobility?
Yep. So we ask that individuals qualify for the jobs that they are applying for, at least can make a super strong case about transferable skills or why they can actually meet the criteria that is typically listed in the job application. So it can't be super off the mark there. We also ask that they're in their current seat for, here we have 9 months. So we ask that you've been in your current seat for 9 months before you apply to a different position. And we ask for manager approval. We found that there's really no way around having that conversation with your manager first. We're not able to really act in secret with individuals and help them, apply for a job if their manager isn't aware that they're doing that. But it's really those three restrictions. So again, having a strong case or having the skills that we're looking for in the role itself, having been in your current seat a minimum of 9 months, and having manager approval. Just shy of that, though, a lot of people come to me and say, I saw we opened a role. I'm in the information finding phase. I haven't told my manager about this. I don't know how they'll take it, right? That's pretty standard.
That was going to be my follow-up question, because how reluctant are people? Are they concerned that their manager is going to feel that they're leaving, and are they going to get some sort of backlash? And how do you handle that within HR and coach people on that side?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to see when people are being really mindful of that process, because it can give off the wrong impression if you're really flippant about it or you're not thoughtful about how you approach your manager. And managers, depending on the person and the situation, it certainly can be alarming if your people are telling you they want to apply for a position on a different team or a different role on their team, right? So I talk to a lot of people at that phase where they say, help me navigate this from here. And we're able to first kind of assess if they would be a good fit for the role. If it's glaring that they wouldn't be, I'm the first kind of line of defense and explaining what the skills gap exists and what they should do about that. And then we also help, coach them on how to navigate that with their manager. And we're able to follow up with the managers ourselves just to make sure that goes over as smooth as possible. But it's not always a super straightforward process. Before we kind of formally give someone, you know, the thumbs up to apply for a role, though, they do need to have that conversation with their manager, because that's not something, you know, we're able to do in secret, nor would we want to, right?
Yeah, I do think it's also helpful to have that culture within the organization as a whole, so that all of the managers know that this is open to the company. Retaining talent across the board, having a new role to role, that diversity of ideas brings forth value across the company. Much rather have somebody stay than leave because they're finding that they're not being challenged and not getting the career growth that they want. So once managers understand this, we can do it more open and the managers know that they're part of the culture, they won't have as much fear about being here.
That's right. And for, again, an organization this young, it's startups. I mean, that's one of the primary reasons people take a risk on startup, is because you have generally opportunity for really unusual movement within an organization. So we try to kind of help people keep that in mind, that that's a really valuable part of our organization. We want to honor that. We want to instill that in our culture. And to your point, we want to reap the benefits of having really talented people stay here in whatever capacity that is.
Right. And Jess, you built a whole program around that. So clearly it sounds like you really agree.
Yeah, and I think to what Claire said as well, so we do find ourselves in situations where folks want to move sooner, right? And they're excited, they find a new opportunity internally. And so when we do run into one of those limitations, in our case, every time you have to talk to your manager, right? That's an absolute requirement. But maybe it's a timing thing where, you know, at 6 months, they feel like they're stretching a bit and they want to do something different. In working with their current manager, we've been able to put together opportunities for that person to shadow, or for that person to join some team meetings, or even some smaller, you know, projects that get them aligned to what we're doing but benefit both teams. And things like that are helpful and keep the employee engaged while they continue to grow. And I think something else you mentioned, Claire, that's super important is not every employee is going to be a good fit for that next job that they want, right? So helping them put together a development plan or some set of expectations for what they should be thinking about so they can grow into that position. I think sometimes people see those time limits and they're thinking, oh yeah, I'm here, let me make that move, and that may not be the right move for that person, or again, they may not have the experience or expertise needed. So it's really on us to think about, you know, having that candid conversation, thinking about ways to help them further develop and getting them ready for that if they're potentially going to be a fit.
Great.
That's very, very timely, actually. Just to add an anecdote to this, I had this conversation yesterday with someone, actually. She was looking to make a move into a pretty different kind of role. It would have been on a different department here at Axios. But we had a pretty candid conversation, and she was self-aware, right, and saw a little bit of herself, like, I'm missing some of the skills and experiences that we've outlined we want in this position. But she had actually been proactive in not only coming to me as, you know, people ops, but she had spoken to the hiring managers and executives over that position in the kind of information finding phase. And luckily, everyone kind of came to terms with the fact that this wasn't the right opportunity for her right now. But just to your point, I think shadowing is a great idea of what they can do in the meantime. Where we landed here is the executives and hiring managers were actually willing to have her come on as and watch the onboarding and initial training process for that position. So it's definitely not something that happens every single time, but for people that are really proactive and really thoughtful about wanting to make transitions, it makes it a lot easier to make that ask. Hey, can we let this person shadow, or can we let this person participate in training? And she's going to start making moves in that direction over time.
It's great. I really want to get further when people do projects for us. So, you know, in product management, there's a lot of people get into it from different places. I've had people come in from sales, from support, from sales engineering, from design, you name it, they come from it in order to be a product manager. And a lot of times they don't have the background. And in order to do it, they do even more than shadow. They might take on a small project, and we let them know, hey, you need to have your manager's approval, but B, You're going to have to do this outside of your standard work that you also need to still achieve. This is almost like an internship and getting you ready for being able to hopefully move into a new role like that. And I found that that has worked. So great. All right, I have another question from our audience. This one is from Claire Pretty, and this is for you, Claire. What should I do if leadership doesn't see financial impact of constantly backfilling roles?
Of constantly backfilling for roles.
Yeah, maybe they're not understanding the cost of employee turnover and what that does.
That is always so surprising to me to hear. It costs your organization, not just your HR department, but your entire organization, so much money to be constantly backfilling. There's a lot of data that exists like writ large on what it costs organizations, but in that situation, if I'm thinking of like what I would do, I would first want to partner with the executive or an executive to start building a case to understand really what the business impact is and to get to the point where I can spell that out in numbers. So if I don't know off the top of my head how many business days or how many extra hours, I'll say it this way, how much more work our existing employees are picking up because we're under-resourced, or how many business days we've gone without being able to take that product to market. Like whatever the scenario is, that is a place where HR can be impactful and actually build a business case and help them see that data. If it's not getting through to them that it's just really painful for people and it's making people's jobs harder, partner with your executives to try to understand and to try to put financial numbers around what that's costing your business, because we all know executives and leaders certainly respond best to figures, to math. So good luck in that endeavor, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right, we have a few more questions here from the audience. Claire, you seem to be popular. Jeff's asking, if you could ask one thing of a hiring manager when collaborating on a hiring plan, what would it be?
So this actually dovetails off the last question. It would be to come prepared to tell me the business justification for each of the hires that they are looking to make. I find that even the best intentioned hiring managers often look at only one piece of the puzzle. This is as like open positions are popping up on an ongoing basis. And it's really important to look at the whole of a department and the whole of the puzzle, such that you don't build kind of a Frankenstein department. And also, I mean, think about it. If you're the conduit between hiring managers and executives making hiring asks and the executives who ultimately are approving those positions, those folks need to be incentivized to package those asks and information and get you what you need to help them make the case for those hires and for those hiring plans. So you want to make sure, again, that they know that you're going to have a business justification for hiring all these people, and they should be involved in helping you make that case, is what I'd say.
Great. And Jess, I've got a question here for you. Sandra's asking, how much do you involve your people ops team when creating your employee development pilot projects?
Well, that's a really good question. I think it depends on the individual. It depends on their length of tenure, where they're looking to go, and the complexity, right? So as I start to identify opportunities for projects across teams, or if I think the employee is very much at risk and this is someone that I want to make sure I'm retaining, I will engage people ops to make sure that I'm focusing on the right things. There's not something that I've left off. Again, do they have a history with this employee? Is there an opportunity for us to delve in further and make sure that we're, challenging them in the right way? One thing we try to do is to not, punish the folks that do really great work by giving them more of the same work, right? So is this enough of a challenge, right? Is this something that they're going to feel good about and know that they're recognized as, again, having, being a top talent and, again, apply them across their organization. So oftentimes if I need that increased visibility, or if, again, I feel that it's a truly at-risk situation, I'll pull in people ops. Oftentimes, we're able to manage internally within. The other scenario I'd say where I am pulling in people ops is, again, if it's someone that is looking to make a lateral move, right? Someone who's, or move internally within the organization. I want to make sure that, again, even though I've had that conversation with the other hiring manager, that at the same time we're including people up so they understand what's happening, that there's some fluidity, and that we're doing the right thing and setting the right experience. Because the other piece of this as well is making sure that we provide the right opportunities and similar opportunities to other folks that may want to do something like that in the future. So that's important to us as well.
Yeah. That question just came to my mind as we're thinking about all of this mobility, maybe making a plan for it, and assuming that X percent of your people are going to be moving from one role to another role. That means you're going to have some empty seats to fill. And are you thinking about that and always preparing for maybe some of those junior roles that you just have to keep filling for as you move people through the pipeline within your own company, and how do you manage that in your hiring plan?
You got it. So there's some give and go to that, right? So you're exactly right. As I'm thinking about, someone's career progression and moving to the next stage, I'm very much aware of what the succession risks are, right? What are their talents? What do they provide for the team? What do they provide to our customers? And I'm tracking that internally. So I'm always going back to, again, that whole idea of give and go. There are other teams that I also pull from as well, right? So our internal career pathing and laddering, I'm thinking about, who's coming up on time, who has expressed an interest, and thinking about how I might be able to pull those resources in, and that way they continue to go and develop. The other piece of it is that, again, we've got access to our talent pool within Workable, so I'm thinking about, who are some candidates I've seen before that, were right for the position, and maybe there was someone better in that moment, or maybe someone that, I'm watching their career progress and I'm keeping in touch with them and going back, and that way I can pull from that resources I need to. The other thing too is, I maintain a very close relationship with our internal recruiter. So he's one of his friends here at Workable at this point, to make sure that, again, he has experience with other divisions that maybe I'm not aware of some of the folks that they've been talking to. I'm able to pull in that resource and have that conversation as well if I need that assistance.
Yeah. Sarah, do you have anything to add on that?
That exact idea is why we did put some guardrails around internal mobility. At the end of the day, you did hire someone to come in and do a job. You want to make sure, depending on your particular situation, that if you need to set some guardrails, that you do so, because you do want to bring some order to chaos. And make sure that people aren't trying to jump around so quickly that that's disrupting your business. At the end of the day, everyone knows their individual business is best, and I think just remain innovative with the kind of programs and policies you build to solve your challenges. Again, for us, it's such a unique part of being at a startup that you can move around, and you just see such unusual kind of movement that you don't necessarily see at mature organizations. So we do want that to be a part of it. And a part of Axios, but again, we needed to bring some order to chaos.
Okay, so Nadine is asking, because I think this ties really nicely into what you just said, how large should a startup be before they start allowing that vertical mobility?
Yeah, I wish I had a better answer than every organization is different. All of your challenges are different. You'll encounter them at different stages of your organization. You really got to feel out what's best for you. And as you build programs, if it's experimental, to make sure you tell your people, this is something we're going to try, but we're always going to assess whether or not it works. And we have the ability and the responsibility to change course if it's not working. So if you try out letting people kind of apply for roles internally, and you find out that it's, again, causing a lot more chaos than it is being advantageous for your team, that's just something you'll need to kind of pivot and change direction on. But don't be afraid to experiment and try to solve whatever unique challenges you're facing with whatever solution you think might work.
Great. There's a question here from Leo about how to start building that information. This is a great question. First of all, I think too that I understand the different titles that are out there in the industry, and making sure that you are creating a plan that matches what candidates are looking for, and then start layering in how many levels you will have. create those, align them with a certain level within the organization, across your organization, and then just start building on what skills are necessary. What are the standard skills for each one of those particular roles? The core requirements, and then what it takes you to get from one to the next. It's that differential, and that will allow your employees to be really clear about it and not just think, hey, I've been in this seat for 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, I'm automatically ready for promotion. We really need to meet the criteria of what's on the ladder. And then within each one of those levels, make sure you've got a range so you can actually give them some, a range from a dollar perspective of what you're doing, because it will take some people time to evolve. And typically there's a lot more levels lower down in the rung because more people expect to be promoted more often. And as you get more senior, the rungs get a little bit wider and wider apart, and the expectations for promotion take a little bit longer, and those jumps are more significant. Would you add anything differently to that, Claire?
No, I mean, I think you've hit on many of the key points, right? So to your point, it's thinking about the skills required for the role that you're trying to advance folks through. I think one thing that's been incredibly helpful for us is we've had an organizational approach to making sure that we have very clear career pathing internally within each team, right? So that it's clear as to what success looks like in each role, so that you can, again, make sure, to your point, we're not looking at just length of time in the position, but have you achieved the objectives, right? And making sure that each team has that broken out. And then again, for thinking about the skill set, working with your peers and making sure, like for us, having the skill set of both commercial, being able to upsell, being able to renew customers, but then also customer success to be able to grow and develop those relationships. We want to make sure that folks are spending a good amount of time either in, if they're internal, going from support to one of our junior sales positions, right? So that they have both areas and then coming forward. So it's really about being thoughtful, considering length of time to get to each of these positions to a point, how long are folks expecting to take and what's reasonable. And then along with that, again, we're also talking to each person individually, right? So every situation will be a little bit unique, making sure that we're treating folks that way and that they recognize that we're looking at their individual development. So all good points.
Great.
I actually would add to that, because when we were talking about career pathing and career ladders earlier, I said, oh, for a young company, that's aspirational, we'll get to it, but this is what we're doing in the meantime. When you were just talking, though, it is worth noting that when it comes to defining titles and levels and determining what you're going to hire someone in as, you can actually never do that early enough. And if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to hire in a bunch of people really quickly, and then you're going to have to kind of recalibrate your entire organization, which gets very messy very quickly. So even if it's not fully fleshing out career ladders or career pathing, be really honest with yourself about why you're hiring in to be a senior engineer versus an engineer, and document that and make sure you know what kind of responsibilities you are assigning to different titles and how you want to define those titles. So it's just as, again, it's you can never get too far ahead of that, and it'll be really helpful in scaling up your organization if you're doing it based on a system of knowing what those titles mean and what those levels generally are. It's hard to do that looking back.
Awesome. I think that's a great point, and it's a fantastic point to end on. I'd like to thank our audience. I'd like to thank our panelists, especially Claire and Jess, and for all the folks that participated in putting this event on. So thank you all. We really appreciate your time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.